A clinical trial is a setup of, I suppose, a controlled environment where you have an idea or a theory and you're trying to prove that idea or theory with a group of patients with a specific disease that you're interested in. But with clinical trials specifically, we're looking at is new medications for tuberculosis, and are they safe? Do they work? Are they well tolerated? And will they actually change our clinical practice in years to come, with the view to it actually shortening treatment to patients? So I suppose the point of us is actually just to reduce the burden on our very overloaded health system, to find new drugs that actually work. I think it's a disease that, look, the burden of TB disease is huge. If we just looked at the amount of people who didn't necessarily have TB disease itself but were TB infected, that's a good 2/3 of the world's population in itself. And then if we look at what HIV has done to our incidence of TB disease, it's just changed people's lives, where they might have a 10% chance in their whole life of developing TB to 10% per year of developing TB. So it's become an astronomical problem, and it's not just a developing world problem, it's a problem that is really global. And I think we're in a unique situation where we really can do something about changing it.
I think what's great about TASK is that TASK really offers patients the opportunity to take part in clinical trials. And I do see that as an opportunity for anyone who suffers from that disease. The reason for that is because anyone who's taking part in a clinical trial is actually receiving additional health care, additional treatment. We look after our patient extremely well. We do additional tests, additional care, which they would normally not get in the community. About that.
No, I think, look, our patients get treated according to the national guidelines. And I think what Tina's referring to about maybe that just a little bit of extra care, it's very much extra personal care about finding out what your social conditions are at home, are you working, and also what's going on with you and how you're responding to this massive diagnosis of having TB. The ones that we have right now, they take very long to be effective, especially with multi-drug resistance emerging as much as it has been. So there's definitely a need for much shorter, much safer treatment. If you were living in a little town and you were the only pharmacist and you had TB patients, we kind of classify them. And if you had to walk into your pharmacy and you had a drug-sensitive patient, you would be able to take your very favorite drugs that you know is going to work in more than 90% of cases. So that would be rifampicin and isoniazid, and you'd add PZA, and you'd have a really nice regime based on that. But unfortunately, if you had a patient who had multi-drug resistant TB, you couldn't go to your favorite 2 shelves and choose those 2 favorite drugs because they actually don't work anymore, which means we now have to start taking many, many more drugs and combining them, and so the pull load becomes a lot more than just 3 or 4 tablets.
I think it's a huge logistical task, actually, included not just in getting a study approved, but then actually the whole startup and all the phases to get to the end point where a patient has actually completed a study. I mean, the WHO designed that DOT program, which has proven to be successful in TB patients, to ensure that they actually manage to follow through with their treatment until the end. And I think that's what we've taken on and applied that to the trials as such and the trial medication. But I think it's very, very important to support the patients in that really difficult time and have that extra support and extra person to talk to.
And not just on a one per person kind of basis, but like on a family basis, because I think from our patients that we see here also, we see how the parent is diagnosed and then the child is diagnosed, and so it really affects the whole unit, the community. Actually, it's such a community-based disease. It's actually amazing, and just reaches into everything.
It's true.
ourselves as a group and out of knowing colleagues and I think knowing what our intentions are, I really do think we have the best interests of the patient at heart.
Yeah.
And I think that looking at the team, they really go the extra mile.
I really do believe that the work we do has a greater benefit to society. I think the key is that if you work in clinical trials, and especially with the patients we're dealing with, everyone has to work so closely together and communicate. This is like an orchestra. You know, everyone is a specialist in the instrument they play. It's just about pulling it all together and making sure everyone knows when they have to, when it's their turn to play.